scholars, this is our crash course video for the standard 7.NS.3. So it's all about solving real-world problems with adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing rational numbers. So it's important that we still remember all of our rules for adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. So if you need help with those, you can go back and look at standard 7.NS.1D and 7.NS.2C. Those are kind of the all-encompassing adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing. This standard is specifically for real world problems, and you'll hear me talk about in class our threes standards. So this one's NS3. The threes are kind of like the all encompassing catch-all for the topic. So like this one's just kind of anything they could ask about adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing. Then we have like RP3, which is like anything about ratios and percents. And then we'll even get into EE3, which is just about kind of like writing expressions and equations. So this one, it could be any kind of real world. Sometimes they'll just give you something that just looks like something you got to type on your calculator, and it's a mix of multiplying, dividing, adding, and subtracting. So sometimes you'll have something that looks a bit like, oh, I don't know, like, let's say like 2/3 minus negative 0.7 divided by 4/5 plus negative 2 times 10. I don't know, something crazy like that. They can now combine multiplying, adding, and dividing and subtraction all in one problem. And these are ones where you can just type them on your calculator. So use Desmos. Make sure you're using that fraction button to start. And then you can kind of type these in if you need to. Make sure we're using minus and subtract the right way if we're using the calculators in person. The other thing that sometimes comes up is average. And we should have in 6th grade learned about average, or maybe you've heard it called the mean. When you have to add up all the numbers. So you add up all the numbers and then you divide by the number of numbers. So like they might ask like the average temperature or the average distance ran. And so that just means add all those numbers up and then divide by the number of numbers that you added. But this could be any kind of real world situation. It's going to be careful reading. And which operation do I use? Is it a positive or is it a negative number? So then also paying attention to those keywords like deposits positive, withdrawals negative. So for this standard, just paying attention to all those little details. And again, it's kind of all encompassing anything with any of these 4 operations with positives, negatives, fractions, decimals.